So I'm going to share a teaching by the Buddha, a discourse called The Four Kinds of People. And the Buddha said the first kind of people are those who don't care about the well-being of themselves or others. The second kind of people are those who care about the well-being of others, who work for the well-being of others, but actually they don't care about their own well-being. They don't take care of themselves. The third kind of people are those who care for their own well-being, but not the well-being of others. And the Buddha said the third kind is actually more preferable. Now that sounds interesting. It doesn't sound very Buddhist, but it's an actual teaching. The third kind of people that care about their own well-being are the preferred people, and we will learn why. And of course, the fourth kind of people are those who care about the well-being, their own well-being, and also of others. And if we just think about it in the world, I mean, there are a lot of people who care about the well-being of others. Let's say peace activists, environmentalists, human rights activists, right? So we have so many people who fight for all the different causes. But I've also met some of these people, and they're also very, very angry, very bitter, angry with the government, whatever. So these are the second kind of people, those who work for the well-being of others. They could be like health professionals. Now, I have friends who certainly care about the well-being of their patients, but they don't take good care of themselves. They don't eat right, sleep is irregular, due to a very erratic schedule, body's tired, mind gets dull. But it's not just the health professionals. I have seen so many people who are not really present to their partners, to their children, to their loved ones, to people that we make a commitment to be there for. So you see why the Buddha would say the second kind of people is not really preferred, but the third kind of people who know how to take care of themselves, how to get reconciled, to begin new with themselves, with their life. Because they then free up that energy of angst, sadness, anger, confusion. And then this well of love just flows in them, without obstruction. So this compassion that is cultivated then, even if I don't try to care for people, I am caring for people. You see what I mean? Like you see somebody, you just smile. You just say something kind. You recognize something beautiful in a person, or if you see somebody is in distress, you know this, right? Whereas when we are so preoccupied with our own anger and pain, even if our child, our loved one is crying, is in pain, we don't see it because we are so numb or oblivious to it, or we don't have the space to embrace it. So that is why the third kind of people is preferred. And the practice of self beginning anew helps us to be the third kind of people. And in the third kind of people, that's the fourth kind of people, right? So in some traditions, the practice of self beginning anew often is presented as a practice you do with others. You begin anew with others. But really, in my own spiritual journey, I've discovered we cannot really begin anew with others if we don't begin anew with ourselves. And many times, actually, when I begin anew with myself, I don't feel the need to begin anew with others. Now, each one of us, we need to go through a process. If I work it through in myself, if I release it, then I don't hold that other person responsible for my own pain or sadness. I take care of it. Then I let go of that person. I mean, of course, that person has their work to do, but at least I lift the burden from that person. So that person doesn't have to be responsible for my own pain or suffering. And so it's a great kindness. And if that other person wants to begin anew, it's great. If not, it's fine with me. In the Plum Village practices, which is the tradition of the Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, the practice of beginning anew with yourself has 4 steps. And we're going to go over all the 4 steps, and we're going to do short practices after every 1 or 2 steps. The first one is called watering the flowers in us. So this practice of watering the flowers in us is very important. Thich Nhat Hanh said we are flowers in the garden of humanity. But many of us, we don't know how to water the flowers in us. And that's why we look so wilted, so wilted, so worn out, so much in distress. We age before our time. So it's so important to see the flowers all around us. Literally, the flowers are blooming everywhere. And also to see the flowers inside us. To say thank you. That's how I think of it. To say thank you to what's already there. We often wish for this or that to happen, and because it didn't happen, we feel sad, we are disappointed, we are frustrated. More often we feel sad because certain things happened. Certain unpleasant things happened to us, and we are sad. So in this practice of beginning anew, we give thanks to the good things that happen to us, which are numerous, right? I mean, just like you look at yourself in a mirror and you can just say, hello, eyes. Thank you for helping me see. See my friends, my loved ones. See beauty all around me. Thank you. Even if it's almond shaped or slanted or one eye is bigger than the other, it doesn't really matter. Our eyes can see. And that's why we treasure them. See how much we judge. We judge too much. Oh, my eyes are not blue or not this and that. But they can see. And if we can just see that. Or it doesn't matter, this body, too short, not too tall, too fat, not too thin. But this body is so precious. And this skin color, just beautiful as it is. That's what I've learned to do. To give thanks to what I have and not what I wish I could have. And it's so nourishing when we can do that. Just to stop self-criticizing and start giving thanks. So every time when you hear yourself thinking something negative about yourself or your body, just say, stop criticizing, press the delete key and start watering the flowers anew. That very same thing you can give thanks. Now we can also learn to be thankful for certain things that we take for granted. We take so many things for granted and so many people for granted in our lives, especially our family and loved ones. And we can also appreciate the struggles, the difficulties, the misfortunes because they can help us to find the path out of suffering, using them as an opportunity to awaken in every situation, every circumstance. So we can essentially train ourselves to be more compassionate instead of hateful and revengeful. So that's the first step. Thank you. The second step is to express regrets. So another word I'm going to give you, we learn to say, I'm sorry. We learn to say sorry to ourselves. Too often we see ourselves as victims. Somebody did this, somebody said that, and it hurt us. And we want those people to apologize to us. But even if something unpleasant took place at one time in our life, maybe that person is now passed on, gone, moved away. And yet we continue to rehearse those words, those actions, those thoughts. So a victim has become a perpetrator. So I'm coming back to Buddha's teachings. In Buddha's teachings, there are 4 noble truths. The first noble truth is that there is suffering. Now, when I say suffering, what it means is there's trauma. Trauma is another word, a modern word for suffering that the Buddha used 2600 years ago. The second noble truth is that there are causes to the suffering, there are causes to the trauma. Yes, there is that original cause, but you know what? How is it that that trauma has come to be what it is now? Has become post-traumatic stress disorder? How? What food has been fed to this trauma that with time it has not ameliorated, it has worsened over time? The Buddha said nothing can survive without food. And I've already shared with you earlier about an emotion hormone which has a half-life after 69 seconds. So after 69 seconds, that amount of emotion hormone is half. So it shouldn't have an effect on our body anymore. And yet, we can be angry, we can be in despair, we can be frustrated for hours, days, weeks, months, years, for a whole lifetime. We can be anxious, depressed, bitter. What has fed that emotion so that it has prolonged all this time? What do you think has fed it? What kind of food? Our thoughts are food, right? We feed anger with more anger. We feed anxiety with more anxiety. We feed with our thoughts, with our narratives, with our stories. There's this story about 2 monks traveling and they were crossing a stream that has very strong rapids. And they saw a woman who couldn't pass the stream. So this woman asked for help and one monk agreed to carry her on his back. And then when they crossed the stream, he dropped her off. Now they continued on their journey, but the second monk, after a long while, he said, you shouldn't have carried that woman on your back. It was against our precept. As monks, they take certain vows, right? And the second monk was very upset and judgmental. So the first monk said, "Brother, I dropped that woman off a long time ago. Why are you still carrying her? Like this, we carry so much in our minds, in our thoughts, in our stories, in our narratives. It's amazing. We drag it on and on, and we hurt ourselves. We hurt our back, such a burden, right? So when we practice expressing regrets, we learn to say, I'm carrying this burden all this time. Or in the case of that second monk, I'm still carrying this woman on my back. Or I'm carrying this pain this whole time. And we learn to say, I'm sorry to ourselves. I'm sorry I fed my own suffering. And you know what? That's our enlightenment right there. When we realize, oh my gosh, I have become a perpetrator. I have become a perpetrator to my suffering. And I learn to say, I'm so sorry. So every time you have that negative thought, self-sabotaging, self-harming thoughts, anything that is critical towards yourself, just hug yourself. Can you practice with me right now, my dear ones? Let's practice beginning anew with ourselves. So cross over your arms, put your fingers under your armpits, let your thumbs rest on your chest, wherever it is comfortable. Just wrapping around yourself and breathe. You may like to close your eyes. Now you can continue to hug yourself, or you can gently rest your palms on your lap. Keep your eyes closed. And say, I'm really sorry. I am so sorry that I have said these things all these years to myself. I am so sorry I thought these negative thoughts towards myself. So unkind, so violent. I am so sorry. So you can practice this anytime and anywhere. You can just quietly come back to yourself and thank yourself. Hello, my dear. I know you are there, and I'm so grateful. Thank you for trying to help me. Thank you for being alive. And thank you for not giving up. Thank you for being you. Just the way you are. Thank you. The sadness and pain, the sadness and pain has been our friend for a long time, so we can also see that as our own child. I hear you. That's what you do. To listen and speak caringly. Hold yourself in compassion as you move through your life with tenderness. Deep listening and loving speech to ourselves. To give thanks to what happened, no matter how unpleasant, no matter how painful, and to give thanks to what didn't happen, and to say to ourselves, I am sorry. To say I'm sorry to our body. I am sorry to our inner child. You may very gently open your eyes. It's just that we are so preoccupied. We surround ourselves with noise to distract ourselves, and that is why we cannot hear the voice of our inner child. The deep aspirations, the wisdom that is already there. But if we just quiet down and just come back to this, even throughout your day, as you're driving, as you're sitting in the car, in a waiting room, don't wait, just come back and practice just these 2 steps. It's amazing. It's amazing how you really connect with yourself. And the fear of facing yourself, the fear of the inner demons, all those names we name, you actually discover, wow, it's not that frightening. It's not that scary to face yourself. Actually, you discover yourself. The third part of beginning anew is to express hurt. Now, in our society, we value the intellect a lot. When we talk about the brain, wow, it's everything. We think of the brain as the leader, the boss, making all the executive decisions, leading everything. But actually, Scientific research has shown that 80% of the sensory neurons go from the heart to the brain. Only 20% of the neurons go from the brain to the heart. That is why there is a term that has been coined, the heart brain. So the heart constantly sends signals to the brain, upgrading all the information, what's going on. But that's not all. We have lung brain and gut brain, which they call, in scientific terms, they call the gut-brain connection, right? You feel this butterfly feeling or creepy crawly feeling, or you feel abdominal pain, bloatiness, indigestion, all that. Now the body sends messages to us all the time, and it's saying, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. Please help. All the pain, the constriction, the heaviness, the tightness, the bloating, the reflux are the messages from our body, as if the body is saying, I suffer, please help. So if you feel a tightness in the chest, it's saying, I suffer, please help. So instead of taking some painkiller immediately, just sit still. Put your hand on your chest or wherever it hurts and just breathe with it. I'm here for you. I know you're there and I'm here for you. Thank you for letting me know that there is pain. I'm sorry. I haven't taken good care of you. I'm so sorry. So actually pain messages from our heart brain, our lung brain, our gut brain, our skin brain, our body brain, those messages actually are very essential. They let us know, please take care of me, there's something going on. So if we were the third kind of people, we would take a moment to just stop everything and breathe and address that pain. And it's very amazing. Just like a child crying, if you just embrace the child, I'm here, it's okay. What's going on, my dearest one? What's going on? The child is soothed right away. And then you find out if there's a fever, there's a wet diaper, if there's hunger. You address the situation, but you calm the baby right away, just with your attentiveness, with your empathy, with your concern, right? So we all know that logically and intellectually, yet we don't do that for ourselves. So pain, if we look at it in that way, this is what my body is telling me, to take care of it. And then you thank that pain, you hold that pain with compassion, with tenderness. You take good care of it. You breathe with it. And then it is soothed. It shows you what you need to do. So let us just breathe together and come back and listen to the messages from our body. You may like to close your eyes. Feel your heart. Hear the messages. Listen to the message. Is your heart beating regularly, slowly, at a regular rate, or is it too fast? Do you feel a tightness in your chest or an expansiveness? A heaviness or a comfort, a warmth? Whatever it is, just recognize it. What color do you feel in your chest right now? Now you listen to your lungs. How are you breathing? Slow or fast? Easy or laborious? Short or long? Now gently take your awareness to your lower belly and listen to your gut brain. How does it feel? Just check in, my dear ones. Stop self-criticizing. Stop being so busy. Stop distracting yourself. Stop running away. And just start listening. Start being present. Start being there. And it's incredibly comforting. You may very gently open your eyes. Now, no person can do this for us except ourselves. Right? Nobody. even if the person loves you. We all wish to meet a perfect person, and even if that perfect person shows up at our door, and even if that perfect person is a Buddha, the awakened one, you know what? We will walk away from that person, or we will walk all over that person if we don't know how to be there for ourselves. We will hurt the person. And that also brings me to the point. You must have heard the phrase, hurt people, hurt people. Hurt people, hurt people. And those people who hurt us, they could be our family members, they could be people in our community, school, different places, workplace. They hurt us most likely because they themselves were hurt. And now we are hurt. And most likely, we hurt others. That's why the victim has become the perpetrator. And the perpetrator is the victim. Now, to see this, that's interbeing. In the victim, there is the perpetrator, and in the perpetrator, there is the victim. When we see that, it opens the way to healing. We don't see ourselves as separate. We see the perpetrator is right inside of us, in our thoughts, in our feelings, in every cell of our body, in the way we feed our anger and bitterness and anxiety and self-hate and self-sabotage. There's no separation. So we learn to hold that. We can embrace it as a whole, and that's when healing can take place. The fourth step in this practice is resolution. We can say, oh, I really want this. I really want to change. I promise myself, or I make a promise to others. But if we don't have concrete steps, an action plan, then we end up doing the same thing again and again. And we start losing trust and faith in ourselves. And that's what happens when we suffer. We just spiral downward. We use a negative coping mechanism. It could be anything: checking out, escaping, denying, distracting, or we start taking a substance, or we keep running, or we keep fighting, and the original cause is no longer there. And yet we continue to use these maladaptive coping mechanism, and it becomes a habit, it becomes a pattern, it becomes a personality. And we are so addicted to these habits because that's all we know. The hormones, the stress hormones have been secreted, released for so long. We are running on those hormones. We are physiologically addicted to stress, to trauma and suffering. And so that's why we are very resistant to change. There is a path. There's always a way out. But we always go back to the negative thinking. So we need to just smile to that and say, hello, I know you're there. Okay? Help me to transform. Let's start living. Let's start healing. Let's start doing things a little differently. Let's start thinking in a different way. Like you talk yourself through it. You bring the light of mindfulness into it. Now, if we think the same old way, how can we ever change it? But if you look at it, oh, interbeing. I see interbeing in it, and you smile. That's new light, new angle. And you change, and it's very amazing. Something very simple. If we look at the same thing in a different way, it cannot affect us the same way anymore. So, resolution, we learn to pause. We learn to breathe, to come back to our breath. If something arises, instead of reacting habitually, automatically, right? We come back just for a moment to our breath. And as if you're saying to yourself, just breathe, my dear. Just relax the body. Just relax that thought. Are you sure? Are you sure that's what the person meant? Okay, just breathe for a moment. Not even think about it. And as you do that, as you take care of yourself in that way, you break that chain. You break that pattern of being swept away by that tsunami, by that storm. Remember, I told you about the eye of the storm? That's how you stay in the eye of the storm. When there is this big hurricane, this big storm inside, there is the eye of the hurricane. And that eye of the storm, it's actually quite peaceful and safe. So how do you enter the eye of the storm? You do it with mindful breathing, with right view, right thinking of interbeing. So these are some of very simple practices that we can do in our daily life. And it just slows down the mind. And if the mind comes back to the body, the mind anchors in the body, then the mind is not free to write up this whole narrative to go back to those dark spaces. So learn to come back to your breath. Listen to the messages of the body with compassion. Or just lie down on your back or on your belly. Just sit still for a while. Express your gratitude and express and say sorry for not taking care of yourself. The storm will pass. And you strengthen your capacity. Every time you do this, you strengthen your capacity to be in the eye of the storm. And that is deep healing. That is very deep transformation when you can change your own habit pattern of your mind. That is very empowering. Learn to be a soulmate to yourself. Whenever you come back to your breath, whenever you sit quietly and listen to the message of your body, you are a soulmate to yourself. Whenever you talk yourself through something in a gentle, kind way, you are a soulmate to yourself. So let's be a soulmate to ourselves. Let's sit quietly with our spine straight but relaxed. And you may like to close your eyes. Gently become aware of your breathing. Be aware of your in-breath and your out-breath. Be aware of your belly rising with every in-breath and your belly falling with every out-breath. Hello, my precious body. I know you are there, and I'm so grateful. Help me to be there and embrace you just as you are. My eyes, the way they are. My nose, the way I look. My teeth, my mouth, my skin, my color, my gender. Just as you are, my dear. Help me to accept you and love you just as you are. Just as I wish somebody else could do that for me, let me start doing that for myself. May I be a soulmate to my breathing, to my body, to my life. For all the things that have happened in my life. Others have done to me, and I have done to myself and to others. I am still here. Help me to practice so that I can be at peace with myself. Help me to practice beginning anew with myself so that I can be at peace in myself. at peace in the world, at peace with the world, at ease in my own body, in my own skin, at ease in the world, at ease in my heart, safe to myself. Only then I am safe to others, to the world. I have come home to myself, my dear one. I've come home to my breath, to my body, to my heart, to this precious life that I have. This one rare and wild chance to be just who I am. Pure energy and a being of radiant light. A spiritual being in this human shell to navigate this earthly journey. We are our own soulmates, and we are a soulmate to each other. And this is a very precious, precious thing. And you can offer yourself a smile. We are not smiling for anyone. We are smiling to ourselves. Allowing us to be in this present moment. Present for myself, for my heart, for my body. I'm here. And I'm aware that life is all around me and inside of me. I'm grateful for life. I smile to life. And whenever you're ready, you may gently open your beautiful eyes. May your heart be smiling always. Atma Namaste.